want to take you straight to the White House. President Biden starting to speak about his new sweeping executive order on artificial intelligence. Let's listen in.
Cheesy. Thank you, Kamala, for that introduction and for your leadership in this issue. Before I begin, I want to explain why I was delayed a few minutes. I've just spoken with President Fain of the United Auto Workers. And let me say a few words about the UAW and the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. They have reached a historic agreement and a hard-fought agreement that was really battled for a while, but it was all done in good faith. And these record agreements reward auto workers who gave up much to keep the industry working and going during the financial crisis more than a decade ago. These agreements ensure the iconic Big Three can still lead the world in quality and innovation. Due to the commitment and solidarity of the UAW workers, willing to exercise their right to collectively bargain, they won a record contract with over a 30% increase in wages, greater retirement security, and more paid leave. And the commitment by the Big Three to create more full-time middle-class jobs and invest tens of billions more dollars in plants and factories building automobiles' future here in America. I applaud the UAW and the leaders of the automobile companies for agreeing that all the workers on strike and all those who were walking the picket lines on behalf of the UAW, brothers and sisters, can go back to work immediately, even before the vote is taken. Ultimately, the final word on this contract will be for the UAW memberships themselves in the days and coming weeks as they vote. But here's what I know and what I shared with the United Auto Workers I met in the picket line. I've always believed that the middle class built America and that unions built the middle class. And that's especially the case for the United Auto Workers, who built the iconic automobile industry. For too long, in my view, the economy hasn't worked for working people and for middle class folks. Because when they do well, by the way, everybody does well. That's why I came to office determined to build an economy to build from the middle out and the bottom up instead of the top down. It's a critical piece of worker power, and is showing how collective bargaining works by providing workers a seat at the table to honor their contributions to their employers' success by securing pay and benefits that can raise a family on and retire with dignity and respect. It's showing how collective bargaining works for companies, how strong relationship between workers and management can mean record profits leading to record contracts. We're also seeing it across the board for the UAW workers. We're seeing this everywhere. Rail workers, port workers, Teamsters, writers, health workers, and workers on other industries organizing and by collective bargaining. Folks, look, today's historic agreement is yet another piece of good economic news showing something I've always believed. Worker power is critical to building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, and so is economic growth. We just learned that our economy grew 4.9% the last quarter, the highest growth in 2 years, just as inflation continues to come down. We've more to do, but we're finally beginning to build an economy that works for working people, for the middle class, for the entire company, the entire country, including the companies. Because when we do that, the poor have a ladder up, the middle class does well, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And that brings me to today's announcement. Folks, I want to thank Kamala again for the work she's done through her entire career to protect people from harm and to promote responsible innovation. She's traveling the United Kingdom, as she pointed out this week, where she'll highlight how America's setting the standard for AI safety, security, and trust. I want to thank all of you for joining us here. Some of you, members of my cabinet, members of Congress, including the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's been a real leader in this, Chuck. Thank you, pal. You've state and Senate and local officials, leaders in technology, business, labor, academia, civil rights, civil society. And we'll see more technology. I know you know this, But we're going to see more technological change in the next 10, maybe the next 5 years than we've seen in the last 50 years. And that's a fact. And the most consequential technology of our time, artificial intelligence, is accelerating that change. It's going to accelerate it at warp speed. AI is all around us. Much of it is making our lives better. And AI is helping the National Weather Service predict weather events, helping the Webb telescope manage 500,000 miles of galaxies away, billions of light years away. I found it when I turned on my phone and saw that. I thought, my God, what is this? Science fiction. I'm serious. Didn't you have the same thought when you saw it? AI is helping millions of commuters find the shortest route home as well. But, you know, in some cases, AI is making life worse. For example, using teenagers' personal data to figure out what will keep them glued to their device. AI makes social media more addictive. It's causing what our Surgeon General calls a profound risk of harm to their mental health and well-being. Over the past years, Kamala and I have met with a range of experts, many of whom are here today, and thank you for coming, here today on the risks and the incredible opportunities of AI. One thing is clear. To realize the promise of AI and avoid the risk, we need to govern this technology, there's no other way around it, in my view. It must be governed. That's why we're here today. I'm about to sign an executive order that is the most significant action any government anywhere in the world has ever taken on AI safety, security, and trust. This order builds on the critical steps we've already taken to ensuring the AI Bill of Rights to bring together leading AI companies who agreed to voluntarily make certain commitments to make sure AI is safe and the system is secure. With today's executive order I'll soon be signing, I'm determined to do everything in my power to promote and demand responsible innovation. First, the executive order is about AI safety and security. Today, I'm invoking what's called the Defense Production Act that federal government uses in the most urgent moments, like mobilizing the nation during a time of war or developing COVID vaccines during the pandemic. This executive order will use the same authority to make companies prove that their most powerful systems are safe before allowing them to be used. That means companies must tell the government about the large-scale AI systems they're developing and share rigorous independent test results to prove they pose no national security or safety risk to the American people. At the same time, I'll direct the Department of Energy to make sure AI systems don't pose chemical, biological, or nuclear risks at the same time. Look, in the wrong hands, AI can make it easier for hackers to exploit vulnerabilities in the software that makes our society run. That's why I'm directing the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security, both of them, to develop game-changing cyber protections that will make our computers and our critical infrastructure more secure than it is today. And that's why my administration has taken decisive steps to prevent these cutting-edge AI chips from being used to undermine our national security, which is possible. Second, the order is about making sure that AI systems can earn the American people's trust, the people's trust around the world. All too often it's already happening. AI devices are being used to deceive people. Deepfakes use AI-generated audio and video to smear reputations, spread fake news, and commit fraud. With AI, fraudsters can take 3-second, and you all know this, 3-second recording of your voice. I've watched one of me on a couple of things. I said, when the hell did I say that? But all kidding aside, 3 seconds recording your voice and generate an impersonation good enough to fool, I was going to say your family, fool you. I swear to God, you take a look at it. It's mind-blowing. And they can use it to scam loved ones into sending money because they think you're in trouble. That's wrong. Everyone has a right to know when audio they're hearing or video they're watching is generated or altered by AI. Thanks to this order, the Department of Commerce is going to help develop standards to watermark and clearly label AI-generated content just say this, that's how it was generated, AI generated. That way you can tell whether it's real or it's not. And when your loved ones hear your voice on a phone, they'll know it's really you. Trust matters. Trust matters. Third, this executive order is about protecting your fundamental rights to, like, privacy. Without safeguards, AI can put your privacy at greater risk. That's why I've called for new protections on your personal data. With this executive order, my administration is going to help develop leading-edge technology that make those protections as strong as possible. Look, privacy is not the only right at risk. Without the right safeguards in place, AI can lead to discrimination, bias, and other abuses. That's why, with the help of civil rights leaders here today, this order directs several actions to protect Americans' civil rights and their safety. That means clear guidance for landlords and federal contractors and federal programs to prevent the bias in AI tools that can be used to make decisions on whether or not someone qualifies for housing or benefits or a job. We'll develop the best practices for AI use to ensure fairness in the criminal justice system as well. And when appropriate, the Justice Department and the federal civil rights offices will investigate and prosecute AI-related civil rights violations. The fourth thing this order does, it will ensure that emerging technology works for consumers and for workers. For example, to protect patients, we'll use AI to develop cancer drugs that work better and cost less. We'll also launch a safety program to make sure AI health systems do no harm. To protect workers, this order directs the government to help make sure AI isn't used to shortchange workers. I've also asked for a comprehensive report on the potential impact of AI on the labor market and how to help workers whose jobs have been disrupted. We're going to support workers in every industry by defining their rights and defending them to a fair way to organize and as these other more technologies emerge. And finally, we're going to make sure America leads the world in innovation and attracts the top talent to stay at the cutting edge. And because AI's challenges and opportunities are global, we're going to keep advancing American leadership globally. In meetings around the world, I've heard from leaders, and I've been going around the world a lot lately. It's good to be home. And we're looking, but leaders around the world, as they approach me, I mean in any country, they ask, is the United States going to show the way in AI? Will the United States lead? I'm sure Kamala's going to hear this when she's in the United Kingdom later this week. And we'll continue to work closely with allies and partners, including the United Nations, the G7, and the G7, which just set out the first ever international code of conduct to safely guide AI development. Look, let me be clear. This executive order represents bold action, but we still need Congress to act. We need Congress to act. I want to thank Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer here. Chuck, you've taken the reins in this issue like no one else could. You've developed legislation to harness the power of AI while keeping Americans safe. Tomorrow, I look forward to meeting with you and the bipartisan group that you've put together to bring down to the White House to underscore the need for congressional action. I'm going to continue to call on Congress to pass bipartisan legislation, to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online, to ban targeting advertising to children, to limit it. The personal data these companies collect on us. Folks, let me close with this. We face a genuine inflection point in history. One of those moments where the decisions we make in the very near term are going to set the course for the next decades. And with the position we lead the world in the toughest challenges and the greatest opportunities, look, there's no greater change that I can think of in my life than AI presents as a potential. Exploring the universe, fighting climate change, ending cancer as we know it, and so much more. As artificial intelligence expands the boundary of human possibility and tests the bounds of human understanding, this landmark executive order is a testament to what we stand for: safety, security, trust, openness, American leadership, and the undeniable rights endowed by a creator that no creator, no creation can take away, proving once again that America's strength is not just the power of its example, but the example of its power. Look, I know we can meet this moment with hope and not fear because of all of you, and I mean this sincerely, because all of you here today, many of you are the originators of this technology. And all across America, the people are focused on this. You're the reason why, and I mean this sincerely, you're the reason why I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just have to remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I'm going to go over and sign that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The executive order.
Mr. President Biden.
Trustworthy development of the use of artificial intelligence.
Announcing the name of the executive order, a high presidential document that he wants to have teeth concerning artificial intelligence. He outlined a series of actions the executive branch, the government's going to take to try to both protect Americans and the world from the considerable dangers of unregulated artificial intelligence. At the same time, he talked about catalyzing funding and American energy so that the United States can lead the world in it. He did outline, didn't quite hear what he says there.
You've been incredibly responsible. Thank you, and thank you for educating us on this as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, so there he's thanking the attendees at the East Room in the White House. There apparently, people from the artificial intelligence industry. And so for more, let's bring in ABC News' Elizabeth Schulze and our tech reporter, Emmanuel Saliba.
So, Emmanuel, let's just start with you. AI, as we know, it's growing, and we're all taking advantage of it. Look, our kids are taking advantage of it in school. We take advantage of it sometimes, to dive a little deeper into subject matter. It's impacting people in good ways and helping with regard to information and the dissemination of information, but it's also highly risky. People are worried about it replacing a typical worker who needs the job that can be replaced by AI. There's national security risks. I mean, we want to mitigate the risk, but we also want to benefit from the advantages of AI. So the question is, can this executive order do it?
An interesting thing that came about in this executive order was Biden administration has asked the Department of Commerce to set a set of guidelines to help authenticate content coming from the government, meaning the American people should be able to trust official documents coming from the American government. And so through these measures, there should be a set of provisions that would help Americans trust the files and the documents that they're seeing. And that has to do with content authentication, but also they talked about labeling AI-generated content. So making that differentiation online from a real authentic piece of content and something that has been manipulated or generated using AI. And I've spoken to some of the experts that Biden has been speaking with to describe and to write some of these provisions, and they say they're working with the administration. Adobe is one of them. They've been leading the charge in transparency online, coming up with a set of standards called the content credentials. And those are, think of it as a nutrition label that you can put on any image, on any video, that would help users, like all of us, understand whether or not a piece of content is authentic. So it'll be interesting now to see whether or not they start using these already existing digital standards.
And if I could just follow up, Emmanuel, that problem, which is a problem that we have already, that's almost easily solvable compared to what the president was talking at the top of his remarks. The main thrust, the biggest piece of this executive order, which frankly was a little bit frightening when he was talking about what the United States government has to do to protect the country from the dangers of AI. He said that companies will be required, if they're developing some artificial intelligence model that poses a serious risk to national security, national economic security, national public health and safety, they'll have to notify the federal government about that. And then he went on to say that the Department of Energy and Homeland Security will address the systems that private companies are developing that might pose threats to critical infrastructure as well as chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and cybersecurity infrastructure. Can the government keep up with this?
That's the big question, right? And that's the one all experts are posing. And it's not only about these large companies that are operating in this space, but it's about the smaller ones. And as we know, bad actors don't really operate out in the open. So now we'll have to see how the federal government, looks to enact or keep up with all of these new developments. And that's really, as you said, the question. We'll wait to see whether or not we can figure that out.
Well, and Elizabeth, how do you make companies transparent and honest? Because this is about making money, and they see what the demand for this type of technology. But if the president is saying, okay, you're going to have to be more straightforward and tell us how your systems are secure and trustworthy and safe for all Americans, but how do you hold companies accountable to be honest when it's growing just so quickly?
Framework that companies have to do when they're reporting to federal agencies, and using the Defense Production Act, for example, to try to ensure that some of those tests and those safety standards are being met. But I do think a really important part of this conversation that both you and Terry are getting at is that a lot of the companies at the forefront of artificial intelligence have been urging the White House and have been urging the federal government to step up its game when it comes to regulating artificial intelligence. Several companies have been meeting with the president in a series of meetings here at the White House, basically urging him to take these steps. They've made voluntary commitments already as to how they're going to regulate AI. Companies like Google, for example, have their own set of AI principles that they're trying to meet, and they're saying the government needs to codify that, put some of these principles into law, whether it's how to distinguish images that are made through artificial intelligence or weapons that could be made with some of these with artificial intelligence, or whether it's trying to combat bias that can be put in place. Some of these algorithms, making sure that those algorithms don't have implicit bias in them that could make it harder to get a loan from federal agencies. And this is something we've heard companies urge the government to do, not just at the executive level, but from Congress too, guys.
All right, Elizabeth, Emmanuel, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.